Welcome back to the Tech Ed Podcast. We are live streaming on YouTube from Automate, where 25,000 attendees are experiencing a wide array of live automation solutions. And we are in the FANUC Education Pavilion, hands down the world's largest offering of robot models. FANUC robots are found in virtually every single industry. And FANUC's General Manager, U.S. General Industry Sales and Education, Jim Cooper, can be found in the Tech Ed Podcast studio here this afternoon. Jim, thanks so much for stopping by.
No, thanks, Matt, for the invitation.
Absolutely. Really. No, we're so excited to have you here. You know, just a phenomenal gentleman and a good friend of mine personally, as well as technical education, and we're really looking forward to getting into this. What a huge presence that FANUC has here at Automate, Jim. We're in the Education Pavilion. Tons of people walking through, checking out all kinds of educational solutions to inspire that next generation of STEM and workforce talent. And then I was over in the main FANUC booth this morning, or this afternoon, I guess it was a little bit earlier this afternoon, absolutely packed with, when we say hands down, the widest array of robots. They're all here, right? Collaborative robots, CRs, we've got our traditional 6-axis robots, we've got Delta robots. I mean, it's just absolutely phenomenal. For our audience members that may not be totally familiar with FANUC, and my guess is that's a pretty small minority of them because we talk about you all the time, but tell us a little bit about what our customers, what our listeners here should know about FANUC.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. It's really exciting to be here at the show and participate in this podcast. The traffic and attendance at the show, it's just, as we look outside of where we're sitting, it's just packed here today. So it's really great to see. So a little bit about FANUC for those who may not be familiar with us. We are the world's largest robotics and automation company. But when I look at that, I really always kind of talk about it. It's the product, the people, and the passion.
Sure.
And we have, as you mentioned, we have a really broad range of products, really solving every kind of robotic application out there. But it's really, beyond that, our large organization, our large group of people that, and our team here and globally, but certainly here in the Americas, and they're just the passion for automation and robotics and helping manufacturers and helping education, solve their challenges.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it really is all about solving challenges. We had one of your contemporaries, Lou Finazzo, on with us earlier today, along with one of his customers, talking all about the approach to problem solving, and that's really what it's all about in this world of automation, especially as this technology continues to advance. And you think about, FANUC has been doing this for a long time, and to your point, has created a huge presence both in the robotics and in the CNC and in the automation market in general, and just such a spirit of innovation. At FANUC, you talk about the people. I know so many of the great FANUC team members, and you're exactly right. They really have a passion for automation. They have a passion for solving problems. They have a passion for adding value for customers, and really just an incredible culture of progressive innovation, of research and development, but an intentional culture as well. I mean, I know from experience that you don't put products out in the market unless you're absolutely confident that they're going to solve problems for customers and be able to function and perform at really, really high levels. To that point, what are some of the new advances, some of the new products that you're featuring here at Automate?
Yeah, so, this industry and is always, to me, steps of evolution. And we certainly, we're introducing some new products here at the show. And just really throughout the year, we always are introducing new products. And, as during the introduction, you mentioned I lead our general industry business, so for FANUC, and that is basically everything non-automotive.
Okay. So
it really is touching this wide gamut of applications and customers, food, pharmaceutical, warehouse, logistics, but really I think what we're focusing a lot of attention on is the improving the ease of use, making things easier to deploy, quicker to deploy, because really where I think everyone in our industry, and certainly as we see the large opportunity for growth, is in the small to mid-sized manufacturers.
Right.
And some of these customers can't afford expensive systems and are really looking to automate the simple application. So we really are spending a lot of effort and enabling people to automate the simple applications and also do it themselves. There's a lot of talk about the DIY market of, easy to deploy, quick to deploy, and not everything needs to be the big complicated system. So we're certainly focusing a lot of our attention on that, and and beyond that, from a product perspective, just the continued advancement in vision technologies. You always see a lot of vision on the robots in our booths, and we sell a lot of vision technology, and that is an area that just continues to evolve, for us to help people reduce costs of tooling and fixturing and making these solutions more flexible to handle a wide variety of parts, and really with the objective and some of our customers achieve this of what we call lot size one. I need to just make one of these parts.
Right.
Once that's done, I'm switching to something else, and to be able to switch over and do that quickly is a big focus area for us.
Yeah, absolutely. You think about those small to mid-sized manufacturers, and if I'm a large OEM, with billions of dollars in revenue, I've got a whole team of people that are working on this. If I'm a $25-50 million manufacturing company, maybe led by a handful of people and a couple of manufacturing engineers, maybe working on continuous improvement, might not have all the experience in automation and related technologies. And so how do we make these systems, to your point, easier to deploy, easier to program? And then you get into kind of the high mix, low volume environment, which I spent almost my whole career in my manufacturing days. We had manufacturing plants that were running literally like 15, 20,000 different SKUs through the, different discrete part numbers through the manufacturing operation, and how you get flexible enough to be able to switch from one product to another really, really quickly, still get the benefits of automation from the standpoint of precision and yield and certainly reduction in labor costs, but be able to do it in that high mix, low volume environment. Vision systems being a huge part of that, right? I mean, if a robot can see a part, can pick it up out of a container, can place it on a rack, and put it in a machine tool, that is really a huge opportunity for the small to mid-sized businesses to automate. And the truth is that while they may not have the resources to make those investments, the ones that do are going to gap everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so they absolutely have to figure it out. So I think you point to some really, really interesting innovations. I look at all the CRX robots, the FANUC collaborative robots that are in your booth today. That's got to be a huge part of it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and what we see with many of these small to mid-sized manufacturers, and I always use an example when I'm talking to our teams about this, and the opportunity out there in the marketplace is, envision that pole barn in the middle of the field somewhere,
right,
with somebody with a small metal fab shop.
Yep.
Just running a small business and getting it done. And one day they may need it to do welding. The next day they may want that robot to do grinding and move it around and do different applications. And,
right,
that's what we're, really we'll work on to enable those things to happen, because, those companies need to increase their volume and their output. And just like everybody,
right,
everybody's having a tough time finding people. So
exactly. Yeah, we'll get into that whole war for talent in a moment. That's obviously, really critically important. And the more user-friendly we can make automation solutions, the easier to deploy, the fewer people hours we need to use to deploy those. We can keep our people focused on other value-added tasks. And so
exactly,
it's just a huge part, I'm sure, of the innovation that's going on at FANUC. But just incredible changes. I mean, we're walking around here at Automate, and it's just, artificial intelligence, machine learning, vision systems, all these material handling solutions, autonomous mobile robots, collaborative robots. I mean, it's just, 10 in the last 10 years, just the innovation that has happened in this space. It's almost mind-boggling. And you have 10 years upon 10 years upon 10 years of experience in this industry. Talk to us a little bit about some of the changes that you've seen. I mean, how many decades have you been in the robotics industry and automation, and then a little bit about some of the changes you've seen over the course of time?
No, that's a interesting question. I actually started. I always joke about this. Like George Costanza, I was originally planning to become an architect, and it just didn't happen that way. And I actually started with an automation company co-oping in high school.
Oh wow!
So I've been in automation, and at that time, there wasn't even robotics out. So in 1980, so
incredible.
I joined FANUC in 1985, and through my career, been with system integrators and with FANUC, and seen tremendous, significant change.
I can imagine.
And I think probably if I look at a couple of what have been the biggest changes, I think that continued making it easier to deploy robots, and then the integration of vision technology has been a big change over the years, and
absolutely.
Just trying to put more into that packaging of the product from a controls capability perspective, and so that's from a product perspective. When I look at it from a market, when I originally started with FANUC at the time, it was called GMF, and
some people still call it GM FANUC.
And the market was the automotive market. There was no general industry market, and we had some really visionaries. Our original CEO, Eric Mittelstadt, was certainly a visionary in that area, and we all felt that there was this market outside of automotive. And even though I've been with the companies from the early days, I've always been involved in the general industry market, the non-automotive market. Even being here in Detroit and growing up in Detroit, that's kind of the path I migrated towards. And we had some visionaries in early years that felt that there was a market out there for outside of automotive, and started investing resources and time into it. And it's grown to become a significant part of our business, which I'm certainly feel very privileged to be able to lead.
Yeah, well, privileged and a big part of that growth too. And just you think about the fact that if you turn the clock back, whatever it was, 20, 30 years, that there would even be a question about whether we'd be automating outside of the automotive market. And today, I mean, you think about everything from food production to distribution and logistics to packaging to my world of surface finishing and so on. It's amazing to me to think that people may not have even thought that there would be that market, and now there's this entire industry space. You mentioned the vision systems that we've already talked about a little bit, and I'm just so fascinated. You and I were together in San Diego a couple short months ago. You did a great presentation at the ASI event for FANUC, and one of my favorite parts of being at that event, and I've traveled to it several times, where all the FANUC integrators from all over the North America get together and share best practices and learn about new innovations that are taking place in automation and so on. And then you have your competition where people submit applications of automation and compete for basically being chosen by the audience, by their fellow integrators, as having the most innovative solution. There were 3 great ones there this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the one that the one that won was an application in the oil rig space it was really, really cool. I actually didn't vote for that one. I voted for the gray matter robotics solution, and it comes out of my background in the world of manufacturing and in high volume, low mix environments, where they were, in that case, surface finishing, basically using AI. So they've got a vision system that is basically taking a picture of a part, understanding the profile of that part, and then using a grinder at the end of a robot to grind parts, and literally a single piece flow, one part, and then onto some total different configuration. And the application of vision in that particular innovation, which just absolutely blew me away. So I'm with you. The benefits of lead through programming, being able to program a collaborative robot, being able to use vision systems in ways that we've never been able to before. Really, really exciting time to be in that general industry part of FANUC that you spend all of your time in. And because of that, you spend tons of time with customers, and I know you do. In fact, you mentioned you were on at a meeting this morning with a customer, and I know that's really core to the work that you're doing. Certainly, they're coming up with all these great applications for automation and partnering with FANUC and doing that. What are you hearing from them in terms of workforce? What are some of the challenges they're seeing in that space?
That's a really that's a good question. Our team that Paul leads here for our CERT group and that whole
Paul Aiello, he's a magician in his own right.
Yeah, absolutely. Has done such an amazing job of growing this market, and there's, I always look at it from two perspectives. Is one, the growing of the business and growing of the market, but the second and really the more important is the career opportunities it gives to I don't want to say kids, but certainly kids are a part of it. People in all stages of where they're at in their career evolution. That's so important. we've talked and have spoken. It's discussed many times with what we do that not everybody's suited for your program.
For sure.
And so and I know you've given some examples at some of our conferences of people who walk right out of high school with a job making a very good living.
Yeah.
And so the when I look at that, we work with a lot of large organizations in general industry as an example, and try to help them with their automation journey, and a lot of them are on this, recognize this challenge that they need to automate at a faster pace because their workforce gap is growing faster than what they're able in the past to be able to automate. So we try to help them with creating a path to do that, help them plan that. But a real key part of that is, how are they going to support this? And so what we do as an organization, and that your organization involved with, and you personally, and and all the companies and many others, all the companies down this aisle to our left, and many others, is have built this tremendous network of schools and academia out there, at all levels, career centers, high schools, and where people are able to learn how to program the products. And so what we do is, I always talk about this connecting of the dots, is we connect the dots between this, what we call our CERT program and academia, to these manufacturers, so that they have a stream to have access to a trained workforce, because and many of these companies recognize that the finding a system integrator or what robot to choose and is just one part of it, and really the bigger part is, how are we going to support this? And robots are becoming very, very easy to support, and they're not nearly as complicated as they were 20 some years ago. But if you've got a food processing facility in the middle of nowhere, and your technology at that point is some motor starters, to come in and put 20, 30, 50 robots in, you need that technical support staff there. And so what it's been really great for us and our customers is to have this program, and again, connecting the dots, where we introduce them to the schools in their area, and they connect up to become part of that program, so they can help guide what those programs, and we certainly encourage all of our customers, get involved with your local schools. Many of them are, so I think that's not as much of advice as what it was years ago. But
still work to do, though.
Yeah, there is, and as you know, the school's product is creating opportunities for students and careers for students, and understanding what local manufacturing and is needing as skill sets. It's just been some just great connections being made over the last. I've seen a big acceleration in this in probably the last 5-7 years, where industry and academia are connecting up, and customers are sitting on advisory boards and helping to drive the programs. And I know that's what the schools are looking for, is they want that feedback on how can they develop a program that's going to best suit what that local geographic region is looking for, so that students have the best opportunity for placement, and that's all working.
Absolutely. It's working incredibly well. I mean, 1,600 schools now nationwide that have implemented FANUC cert and FANUC certified education program. And really, first of all, certainly giving the students the skills to program robots, to operate robots, understanding things like macros and jogging and end of arm tools, and dual check safety and so on, all really, really important. But also inspiring those young people toward these incredible careers. I mean, you walk around a place like Automate and see all these technologies, and it's kind of like that hidden secret. A lot of times we talk with young people, and they're aspiring to go work for Tesla or SpaceX or Facebook, and awesome career path.
Absolutely.
But the same kinds of opportunities to be creative, to solve problems, to work around technology, to program, to code. I mean, all of those things exist in this world of automation. And I think we have made tremendous progress. And you're right, we're seeing more and more industrial employers who are stepping up, supporting their schools, certainly with their time, serving on advisory boards, speaking to students, inviting the students into their places of business so they can see firsthand what the face of American manufacturing is. And then also oftentimes even stepping up and helping support financially, implementing programs like FANUC Cert at their local high school so that their students aren't missing out on these incredible opportunities. And it really becomes the lifeblood of economic development in so many ways as we think about the future of manufacturing.
Absolutely.
So great advice for industrial employers, which is, hey, get involved with your local educators, stand up, serve on their advisory boards, get to meet them, introduce yourself, be active. As you think about the education side of it, and whether that's a K-12 educator, a technical or community college, a university, and you see FANUC at every single one of those, and we see that all over the country. What should educators be thinking about? What advice would you have for the education side in terms of building those partnerships and thinking about the future?
Yeah, and I think that it's really the same comment in that just as we encourage industry to get involved and engaged, and we encourage education to get involved and engage in what the requirements are of the local, their local industry. And it's not just manufacturing. We kind of look at, there's manufacturing, there's processing. We do a lot in food processing, and really to make those connections, and it is happening. We don't have to, I guess, do that missionary work, encouragement, preaching that to people like we used to. Everybody kind of gets it, and I know much of this discussion we were talking about education and the manufacturing. There's a whole nother aspect to it out there. We have a very large network of system integrators who they're the ones who are purchasing our products and deploying them in engineered solutions, adding value to the robot and content to it. All those companies need technicians and programmers, and that's another aspect of how education is supporting what we're trying to do here, is helping to support those system integrators. I was asked in a staff meeting many years ago by our CEO at that time, CEO prior to Mike, and
Rick Schneider.
And yes, exactly. Right. I don't know if you
met Rick several times. In fact, I commented to Mike Chico yesterday that I was in Japan for the private show. I think it was 2016 when Rick introduced Mike as the president and chief operating officer. So I was actually there for the transition.
Yeah,
so.
No, that's great. And Rick asked me in a staff meeting years ago, what did I see as would be the largest limiting factor to the growth of robotics? And I said programming resources and the talent to deploy these systems. We can put up more factories to make robots, and we know there's I don't want to say unlimited demand out there for robots. In theory, that's not totally unlimited, but
it seems that way now. Right?
But it's still there's people that need to deploy these systems to start them up and program them, and that's that in many ways. And when I talk to our system integrator network, that's our biggest need, is to find programmers and technicians. So that's a whole nother aspect of what we're trying to accomplish in education, is also to serve that network. Absolutely. And that also many success stories out there.
For sure. Just last week we recorded an episode. It hasn't dropped on the podcast platforms yet, but the guest was a gentleman by the name of Ashutosh Padi, who is the North American Managing Director for McKinsey & Company, the huge consulting company, right? So he runs their operations across North America. Obviously, pretty high-profile gentleman. Just wrote a book called The Titanium Economy, and talks about how, when we think about manufacturing, there's the big OEM brand names. I mean, everybody in automation knows FANUC, everybody knows General Motors, everybody knows Ford, so we know these large companies. But to your point, there's this whole field of companies like systems integrators and other companies that a lot of us have either never heard of, never visited, didn't know was a product, didn't know was a market, didn't know somebody needed to do that. And I think in a lot of ways, the system integrators in automation live in that space, right? It's not just for our audience to know, It's not just FANUC and your engineering team and your business development talent going out into manufacturing operations and saying, here's how you do it. There's all these companies that are taking FANUC robots and Rockwell automation, programmable logic controllers, and variable frequency drives, and conveyors and sensors. And I mean, all the technologies that we're seeing here at Automate, and putting those all together into functioning systems that manufacture products. And those really, to me, those companies exist in that titanium economy. And I appreciate you highlighting that for our audience, because the career opportunities with those kind of companies, if you like variety, especially if you're maybe earlier in your career and you want to travel a little bit, all those kind of things, it's just, there's an unprecedented opportunity for these students to be involved with problem solving, being involved with amazing technology. And that's exactly what your integrators are doing. So really, really cool opportunities there. So having a great conversation here with Jim Cooper, who is the General Manager, U.S. General Industry Sales and Education. I always have to peek at your title because it's a long one. I gotta make sure I get it right. For FANUC, supporting the general industry, non-automotive customers for FANUC across North America. Just an incredible job that you have, Jim, and I know it's incredibly fulfilling. Got just a couple questions for you as we close up, and I want to drop one in here in the middle, and that is, as you think about all the great work you've done and the decades of experience you have in robotics, what's your favorite part of your job?
So and it really has always been the case. I two things. I love helping customers solve their challenges, and I just am always fascinated to get out and to see how products are produced.
Right.
I've been in a lot of places over the course of my career, and in their pharmaceutical and food, and earlier in my career, I spent a lot of time in picture tube manufacturing facilities, and which those places are all gone now. Right. But just seeing how all these products get manufactured, Absolutely. It's just I've just always found fascinating, and I've also been significantly involved in our integrator program, our system integrator program, and worked with another gentleman, helped launch that, and Carrie DeSantis, who I know who heads up our marketing department Carrie's now, fantastic. and that was also a very I've thought very fulfilling part of my career
Absolutely.
of helping these organizations grow into figuring out how to add robotic technology to their product portfolio,
right.
and really help, and helping them, as we did from the business side of it, of how do you go about doing this, and how do you make money at it,
right.
and how do you get these how do you get these solutions executed? That was another, I think, big highlight to me
Absolutely.
Personally in my career.
Well, and by extension, really changing the face of global manufacturing when you think about it. I mean, through those systems integrators, had you not been able to set that network up, you never would have been able to reach as many end users, reach as many OEs, as many tier 1, tier 2 manufacturers, to all, not just automotive certainly, but to all these different market spaces. And so in a lot of ways, that small group of people just changed the world of manufacturing, which is absolutely, it's got to be incredible. It's got to be fulfilling. Two more questions for you. We've talked about some of the trends already. Collaborative robotics, certainly the simplicity of programming becoming simpler, deployment becoming simpler and more efficient. We've talked about vision systems. Any other trends taking place in the industry that you think our audience should know about, Jim?
Yeah, I think those trends will continue. I think also what you're seeing is a large growth in the food market and warehousing logistics, and when I talk about the food market, it's food safety is obviously a challenge for food processors. They spend a lot of time on that, as it's very important to them, and in order to achieve highly hygienic systems that meet all the food safety requirements, is a lot of aggressive and caustic chemicals and cleaning processes, and not that robots aren't suited for that, but it requires a different approach and sometimes to that. So when we look at that primary food market, that was always this area out there that we knew that there was going to be opportunities. you'd go in these facilities, you'd see just, hundreds of people, slicing things or handling raw food, but always really, really challenging to automate. Well, that's changed because you go in there and it's not hundreds anymore. It's hundreds minus 25% or 30% because they can't find the people. So the worker shortage has really driven that industry to finally automate, and that's their requirements are driving us as the robot industry and certainly FANUC to develop some new products and new technologies to address food safety, and it's one of those markets you saw for years, and it's like it will happen someday, and just things have to align, and things have finally aligned for various reasons, and that's been a big growth area for our industry.
Our market is just fascinating. As a matter of fact, in between episodes here, I got a call from my younger brother who runs he's CEO of a cheesecake manufacturer that produces, get this, 80,000 cheesecakes a day. 80,000 cheesecakes a day, and they supply grocery stores all across America, either private labeled or with their own brand. And so anyway, he had called me on something totally unrelated, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm in Detroit for this Automate show." And he's like, "Oh, what's that about?" And I told him. He's like, "Oh, I got to send somebody over there." So he's like, "There will be at least one more attendee here at Automate in that food production, food processing market," which I agree 100%. I mean, the applications are incredible, but excuse me, but it is different to manufacture a cheesecake or shredded cheese or whatever. I mean, we see a lot of that than manufacturing an OE kind of traditional manufactured product and some different nuances. So that's a really, really good observation on an upcoming trend and a future growth opportunity. Also speaks to we're going to need even more people because we have yet another market, another vertical that's going to completely automate over the course of the next decade, I'm sure. One last question for Jim Cooper as we're wrapping up our time here on the Tech Ed Podcast. It's a question we ask every single guest here on the Tech Ed Podcast. Get some fascinating answers. But let's turn the clock back to before FANUC, before integration, before the robotics co-op, when robotics were hardly a thing, and you're a 15-year-old kid, sophomore in high school. If you could go back in time, Jim, and give that young man just a little bit of advice, what would that be?
And I, when we chatted about this podcast, as we're setting up the schedule for the show, I saw that question. I thought about that, and I my answer to that is, I feel very fortunate and blessed for, where I'm at in my career, and very honored, feel privileged to lead our general industry sales and execution team for the world's leading robot company.
Yeah, right.
So, when I was 15 years old, the robot industry didn't exist,
right?
And I always think back, and somebody once recommended to watch the Steve Jobs Stanford University commencement speech, where he talks about connecting the dots and how when you're looking forward, nothing maybe seems to make sense, but when you look backwards, all the dots connect for various reasons. And to me, I feel that's so true in my career. And I stumbled into automation in high school because, as I mentioned earlier, the architecture programs at that point were in a soft part of the economy, and I went to work for an automation company. And because the architecture firms weren't bringing on co-ops at that point, and I loved it, and I throughout my career followed what I love to do and my passion, and it was. So when I look back, my advice to myself as a 15-year-old would be follow your passion and follow what you like to do. And when I was 15, I didn't know what automation was, but the opportunity came about, and very much loved it, found it fascinating, and stayed with it. And through many evolutions and changes over the course of the years, here I am. So
absolutely.
Just follow that passion, and
for sure.
And I've been fortunate that I say it all has worked out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, from the young man who was considering a career in architecture, in
Yeah.
so many ways, though, the world that you're in is it's all
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
same kind of applications, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, you're building, you're creating, you're helping solve problems, you're thinking about how people are going to use, in this case, automation, as opposed to maybe a living space or a place to work or what have you. But so many of those crossovers, and you took kind of that interest and found the right spot for it. And who knows, maybe if you went back and told that 15-year-old to invent the 6-axis robot, that God knows where things would have ended up. But to your point, you're just incredibly blessed in the position that you are, and to be able to influence as many different people and different careers and different lives as you are. It's got to be incredibly fulfilling. It's been really fulfilling, Jim, to have you on the Tech Ed podcast. You're a fascinating person, you're a great friend, and really appreciate you spending some time
Thanks,
with us.
Matt. I appreciate all that you're doing for the education and the career opportunities for students. It's really great, because it is can be a great career for people, and many people have had that.
Absolutely. We see it every day.
Growing in their skills and capabilities. For some, it's the travel and seeing different things, seeing the world, and also, as I'm sure many examples where students started down this path and got into the integration side of the business,
right,
and now they're running companies.
Exactly.
Yep.
And the opportunities are absolutely
absolutely
endless. So it's incredible, and and thank you as well for the amazing work that FANUC does under your leadership and that of others, in terms of creating just awesome solutions to get this next generation inspired around these awesome careers, incredible careers. And I really do feel like together we're doing the work of securing the dream for that next generation of STEM and workforce talent, and wouldn't be able to do that without the incredible support from FANUC. So thank you.
All right.